The world is once again watching the diplomatic dance between two old adversaries, the United States and Iran. As of today, February 13, 2026, delicate and crucial talks have resumed in Oman, a nation long respected for its role as a quiet mediator. This is the first time American and Iranian officials have sat at the same table since the brief but jarring 12-day war last June, a conflict that brought the entire Middle East perilously close to a full-blown catastrophe. The stakes, therefore, could not be higher. These negotiations are not happening in a vacuum. They are shadowed by the recent memory of violence and the very real threat of future conflict, making every word and every gesture carry immense weight. The timing of these talks is driven by a stark reality both sides must confront. For the United States, under President Trump, there is a desire to project strength and secure a deal that neutralizes what it sees as Iran's primary threat, but without being dragged into another costly and unpredictable war. For Iran, the crippling economic pressure of American sanctions has taken a severe toll, creating domestic unrest and a desperate need for relief. The recent military clash served as a wake-up call, demonstrating just how quickly tensions can spiral out of control. Now, with mediators from Oman and Qatar working tirelessly, both nations are back at the table, driven by a mutual, if grudging, understanding that the alternative to talking is far worse. This renewed diplomatic effort is unfolding against a backdrop of significant military posturing. The United States has made its position clear by dispatching the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier to the Gulf, and there is talk in Washington of sending a second. This is a classic strategy of speak softly and carry a big stick, designed to convince Iran that the threat of military force is credible and that it must negotiate in earnest. President Trump's rhetoric has swung from threatening Iran's leadership to stating there is no rush for a deal, a deliberate ambiguity aimed at keeping Tehran off balance. This combination of military pressure and diplomatic outreach defines the precarious environment in which these talks exist. From the Iranian perspective, the negotiations are a tightrope walk. The leadership, represented by Security Chief Ali Larijani, must project strength and defiance to its domestic audience, while simultaneously exploring a path to de-escalation and economic recovery. They steadfastly maintain that their missile program is a defensive deterrent and non-negotiable, a pillar of their national security doctrine. Iran also points a finger at Israel, accusing it of actively trying to sabotage the diplomatic process, citing the Israeli attack last June that derailed the previous round of talks. This complex web of regional rivalries, domestic pressures, and historical grievances makes finding common ground a monumental challenge for both sides. At the heart of these negotiations lies a fundamental clash over Iran's nuclear program. The United States and its key ally, Israel, are adamant that Iran must be prevented from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. Washington is pushing for strict, verifiable limits on Iran's nuclear activities, demanding a complete halt to any work that could be related to weapons development. While Iran insists its program is for peaceful purposes, such as generating energy and producing medical isotopes for cancer treatment, its past activities have created deep international distrust. Iran has stated it is open to inspections, but the specific details, how much access inspectors would have and what facilities they could visit, remain a major point of contention. Beyond the nuclear file, the scope of the negotiations is itself a massive hurdle. The Trump administration wants a comprehensive deal that also addresses Iran's ballistic missile program. The United States and its regional partners, like Saudi Arabia and Israel, view Iran's vast missile arsenal as a direct threat to their security. They argue that any agreement that ignores these weapons is incomplete and fails to address the full spectrum of Iranian aggression. This demand, however, is a red line for Tehran. Iranian leaders consider their missiles essential for self-defense, especially since they cannot compete with the advanced air forces of their rivals. They refuse to even discuss the issue, framing it as a non-negotiable aspect of their national sovereignty. For Iran, the most pressing goal is the lifting of crippling economic sanctions. These measures, imposed by the United States, have choked off Iran's oil exports, isolated it from the global financial system, and caused immense hardship for its people. The Iranian government sees sanctions relief not as a concession, but as a right, a necessary step to stabilize its economy and deliver on promises to its citizens. From their viewpoint, they are being asked to compromise on their security and technological rights without a guaranteed end to the economic warfare being waged against them. This makes the sequencing of any potential deal, who does what first, an incredibly complicated and sensitive part of the discussion. These competing priorities create a diplomatic deadlock. The United States is using the leverage of sanctions to force concessions on both the nuclear and missile programs. Iran, in turn, is using its nuclear advancements as leverage to demand sanctions relief. Each side wants the other to give in first. The United States wants to see Iran dismantle key parts of its nuclear infrastructure before sanctions are eased, while Iran wants economic relief before it agrees to new limitations. This who blinks first dynamic is further complicated by intense domestic pressures, with hardliners in both Washington and Tehran ready to criticize any perceived compromise as a sign of weakness, making it difficult for negotiators to find the flexibility needed for a breakthrough. If these high-stakes talks in Oman collapse, the consequences could be immediate and severe, extending far beyond the negotiating room. The most alarming risk is a direct military conflict. The failure of diplomacy would likely be interpreted by hawks in the United States and Israel as proof that only force can stop Iran's nuclear ambitions. This could lead to preemptive strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. Iran has already warned that any attack on its soil will be met with swift and forceful retaliation, likely targeting United States military bases throughout the Middle East and American allies in the region. Such an exchange could quickly escalate from limited strikes to a full-scale regional war with devastating human and economic costs for all involved. A breakdown in negotiations would also almost certainly trigger a new and more dangerous chapter of nuclear proliferation in the Middle East. If Iran feels that a diplomatic solution is impossible and a military attack is imminent, it may decide to dash toward building a nuclear bomb as the ultimate deterrent. This would dramatically shorten its breakout time, the time needed to produce enough fissile material for a weapon. Such a move would create a strategic nightmare for its regional rivals. Countries like Saudi Arabia and Turkey, feeling their security threatened, might be compelled to pursue their own nuclear weapons programs, sparking a terrifying arms race in one of the world's most volatile regions. The global economy would not be immune to the fallout. The Persian Gulf is a critical artery for the world's energy supply, with a huge portion of global oil and natural gas passing through the narrow Strait of Hormuz. In the event of a conflict, Iran could attempt to close this choke point, or shipping could become too risky due to attacks on tankers. Even the threat of such a disruption would cause oil prices to skyrocket, sending shockwaves through the global economy, fueling inflation, and potentially triggering a worldwide recession. Every person who drives a car or relies on manufactured goods would feel the economic pain of a conflict in the Gulf. Finally, the diplomatic repercussions of failure would be profound. Relations between the United States and Iran would enter a deep freeze, making future dialogue nearly impossible. This would also create significant friction between the United States and its European allies, who have consistently favored diplomacy over confrontation. A unilateral military action by the United States would be widely condemned and could isolate Washington on the world stage. Meanwhile, countries like Russia and China would likely seize the opportunity to strengthen their ties with an isolated Iran, expanding their influence in the Middle East and further challenging American leadership in the international system. As these tense negotiations continue, it is crucial for both sides to remember what is truly at stake. The path of diplomacy is fraught with difficulty, requiring painful compromises and a willingness to move beyond decades of entrenched mistrust. However, the alternative is a slide toward a conflict that would serve no one's long-term interests. A war with Iran would not be a clean, surgical operation. It would be a messy, bloody, and prolonged affair that would destabilize the entire Middle East, shatter the global economy, and unleash unpredictable forces of extremism and chaos. The human cost, measured in lost lives and displaced populations, would be immense and tragic. Finding a peaceful resolution is not just a responsibility for the United States and Iran, it is a global imperative. The international community, especially influential powers and regional actors, must actively support the diplomatic process. This means encouraging flexibility, discouraging maximalist demands, and providing a framework for de-escalation. The mediation efforts by Oman and Qatar are a testament to the vital role that third parties can play in bridging divides. At the same time, voices of restraint must be amplified to counter the drumbeat of war from those who see military action as the only viable solution. Diplomacy is hard work, but it remains the only path to a sustainable and secure peace. The core challenge is to build a framework where both nations can achieve their fundamental security needs without threatening the other. For the United States, this means receiving verifiable, long-term assurances that Iran's nuclear program will remain exclusively peaceful. For Iran, it means receiving relief from crippling sanctions and a recognition of its right to exist and defend itself within the international community. An agreement built on these principles could move the region away from the brink of war and create a new foundation for stability. It requires political courage from leaders in both Washington and Tehran to face down their domestic hardliners and choose compromise over confrontation. Ultimately, the choice is a simple one, though the politics are complex. It is a choice between a future of endless conflict and a future of potential cooperation. A successful agreement could not only resolve the nuclear crisis, but also open the door to addressing other regional issues, from the war in Yemen to instability in Iraq. A failed negotiation, on the other hand, would lock the region into a cycle of hostility and violence for years to come. The talks in Oman represent a fragile but vital opportunity. For the sake of regional stability and global security, the world must hope that diplomacy prevails.